Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Moving into the Future. Today, I am joined by my good friend, Andrew Foulsham from Walsh Movers in Boston. I know Andrew through the Office Moving Alliance, OMA, and we are part of the Young Leaders Group together. He's one of, without a doubt, the best people in the industry and a good friend of mine. I'm happy to have him on, and not only is he one of the best people in the industry, but he is also a veteran. And in honor of Veterans Day tomorrow, we're recording this on a Thursday. I wanted to have him on to have a conversation. So, Andrew, thank you for joining us, my friend.
Oh, thanks for having me on, Jack. It's a privilege.
Yeah, no, really, it's all my privilege because I've gotten to know you over the last year, and you really are one of a kind, and you're one of the good guys in this business, and I'm happy to know you. And the fact that you're a veteran just adds to that, and you do so much, and we'll talk about it today. For veterans, but just to start, I've talked to you about this, a couple times just in passing, and not really sat down in this type of forum where we can go into depth about it. But, tell me about your time in the military. How did you make that decision? Because that's a massive decision, obviously. Do you come from a military family or anything like that? What was that like for you when you were a young man?
Yeah, so it was a life-changing decision. It was probably one of the better things that I've done in my life. And I graduated high school in 2000. I was really big into arts. I went to the Art Institute of Boston, 2000 to 2001, majored in fine arts. I was always good at art. I was always good with computers and stuff like that. And I was horrible in other aspects of my life. I wasn't physically fit. I was 6'3", 127 pounds when I graduated high school. So there was a lot of things, a lot of qualities that I saw in other people that I wanted to have. And I was only good at a couple things. I wasn't well-rounded. And I think it was in February of 2001. I was at the Art Institute of Boston. I was working on a project, and I said, I'm just going to be the same person as I am now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. So I dropped out of college. I went down to the recruiting office to join the Navy. My father was in the Navy in 78. He was in naval aviation. So I said, you know what? I'm going to join the Navy, see the world, be a better person, have an organization to push me to be better. So I went down there. They said, you can't join the Navy. You need to gain 50 pounds. So they put me in a 3-month delayed entry program in 2001. I started that in the late spring, early summer of 2001. I gained 56 pounds in 3 months.
Wow.
I was on a PT regimen. It was a pretty good feat, and I wasn't able to do any push-ups at the start. I had to be able to do 20 push-ups before I could get in. I had to run 1.5 miles. So I worked on that, and I had the recruiters, push me and bring me into this group that they were a part of, this brotherhood. So I did that, and then I was scheduled to go into boot camp in September. Then, the attack on September 11th happened. I was in boot camp 10 days after that. So it was a pretty intense experience. Probably one of the best things that I've ever done, and it just made me realize that whatever you think that you can't do, your limits are 80% greater than what you think they are. So, that really helped me throughout the Navy and throughout my personal life and professional life now. So I went through boot camp in 2001, went down to Pensacola for A school, which is another level of training for aviation mechanics. And then I think it was February of 2002, I went to Virginia, and I was based in Oceana, Virginia. I learned F-14 mechanics, the Top Gun, the plane that you see in Top Gun and all that stuff. So I worked on that for 3.5 years. I was deployed in 2003 on the USS Harry Truman, and what I learned in there was I was in a mechanic division, structural and hydraulic mechanics, but they also pushed me into aviation logistics, scheduling the aircraft, scheduling maintenance, um, understanding that you have a mission, you have assets, you have materials, and you need to make all that work together to achieve your goal. And it sounds kind of crazy, but going from naval aviation to commercial moving, you think it's a gigantic leap. It's
Yeah.
really not that big of a leap, because instead of aircraft, you have trucks. Instead of aviation mechanics, you have auto mechanics. Instead of pilots, you have drivers. So I was able to take all the fundamentals that I learned in the Navy and apply it to commercial moving.
Yeah, and that does make sense. You mentioned it as far as like, the three pillars that you mentioned there, are three boxes as far as, in aviation mechanics, there's obviously the machinery, there's the people aspect, and then there's material aspect. That's very similar to how we operate in commercial moving. So there's definitely that parallel. But I wanted to get back, because that is a really interesting time when you entered in 2001 there, in the spring of 2001. And again, you did it prior to obviously 9/11 and the terrorist attack and everything like that. And, that was a time too when there was this moment of immense nationalism, and for you to already be involved in that, prior, and it being a massive shift in your life, and your entire psyche, changed just abundantly in such a short period. What was that like afterwards? What was the how did it shift even after that? Because you had already made an initial shift, but then for 9/11 to happen, what was that second shift like, where now we potentially could be a company at war, and the stakes have been raised, if you will. What was that like?
It was intense, but I think that it wasn't as tense as you would think that it is. You get into a system in the military where you focus on your task, on your role, on your part of the team. So you learn this in training, that you don't really get overly emotional. You just focus on what you were trained to do, and you execute it. I think what enhanced my time in the service, being deployed during a wartime, is just the intense connection between the other people that I was stationed with, my military coworkers, if you will.
Right.
Because you developed a lifetime bond with those people, and you're looking out for them, they're looking out for you. You're all working towards a common goal, and that goal is really, to defend the United States, especially during that time. So it's it gives you a lot of pride and a lot of perspective. And one of the struggles when I got out of the Navy was, you don't really have that too much in the civilian world. When you get into a career, you get into an industry, whatever the industry is, there's a lot of individual goals,
Right.
Individual achievements, and that's hard to transition. That's hard for a lot of military, personnel to transition from, their military responsibilities in that community and culture, and then getting into, corporate life, where a lot of it is individual driven. And that's what I really love about, the future leaders that we belong to. That's the first organization that I belong to where I feel like it is more of a community and brotherhood and sisterhood, where, if I need something, I can reach out to you guys. I'm here to make you better. You're here to make me better. We're all working together and bringing ourselves to a great level of success. So.
Absolutely. And I agree with you too. It is completely unique to our industry and what we're doing as a whole with the Young Leaders Group and Future Leaders Group, I should call it, because that's right. The camaraderie that we've developed through that is significant. And again, it's unlike anything, professionally speaking, that, I've ever had. just in the sense too, well, it's multifaceted. Like obviously we're all in the same industry, right? We do commercial moving together, and we work for our companies and have specific roles at our companies, but we're all just incredibly good people too within the group. Like it's a very high quality individual group where then we come together as future leaders to make significant changes and innovations, within the commercial moving and workplace strategy world. So it's really cool in that regard. And, I'm kind of honored and humbled to hear you say that as far as the camaraderie that you felt in the military parallels to that, because I could imagine, when you're in that world where the mission, like you said, they keep you so focused and so aligned to the mission that regardless of what is going on, you have your brothers and sisters in the military, in the Navy, who you're working with on this mission, with this role for the greater good. And I wanted to ask about that too, as far as when you were on the SS Harry Truman, where were you stationed when that was happening? And speaking of Top Gun, were you like, when the jets are taking off, like, are you like, one of the guys who are there, like, making sure it takes off and stuff like that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So the Harry Truman is what we call an East Coast ship. So it's stationed in Norfolk, Virginia. It patrols the Atlantic. It goes through the Atlantic. It goes England, Ireland, all of Europe, Persian Gulf. So that was our area of responsibility. So when we got deployed in late 2002, it was like December 5th, 2002, and into 2003, we crossed the Atlantic. The first port that we hit was England. Then we went to Greece, and then we were in the Med for an extended period of time during the invasion, the Iraqi invasion. So that was our kind of patrol area. In my role there, I was on the aviation side, so I was on the flight deck, 10 hours out of the day.
Wow.
Yeah. I was my first responsibility, my first job assignment when I went into our squadron, which was VF-32. They put me in the line division. The line division is basically general maintenance. So we would check the oil, the fuel, we would tie down the aircraft, wash the aircraft. We would do the full daily inspections. When the pilots arrived on the flight deck to fly a mission, we would brief them on their fuel load, the condition of the aircraft, and we would strap them in, get them ready, close the canopy, and I was one of the plane captains that would be given the hand signals to the pilot for them to start the engine, for the aircraft to cycle the air and the power and remove that, and then get the engines up and running,
Wow.
check their flight surfaces, and then we would pass them on to the ship employees that have the yellow shirts and the green shirts on the deck, that then put them on a catapult and launch them off.
Right.
Yeah. So I was on the flight deck for I'd probably say 90% of the time that I was out to sea, because we were responsible for launching the aircraft and then recovering the aircraft. It was an unbelievable experience.
Yeah, I could only imagine. Obviously, I've seen Top Gun, and to experience it in real life has to be quite the
It's
job.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable, and it's very shocking because you have double hearing protection on.
Yeah.
The aircrafts are so loud.
Yeah.
Our squadron had 10 aircraft. We were on the fantail of the ship, and there was 8 other squadrons there, and they had anywhere between 4 and 10 aircraft. So it's extremely busy. You got to pay attention to what you're doing. And again, that's another good life lesson. just to be constantly alert and aware. I remember the first time I went on the ship prior to the deployment. This was the very first time I've ever been on the flight deck. It's a little disorientating. It's so loud, you can't hear anything. You can't hear that the engine for this aircraft is on and going and blowing out exhaust, because all the engines are around you, you know, so you're limited on your senses, you know, you just gotta rely on your vision. And I walked right into the jet blast of an F-18. Yep. And there was a gentleman that was for the F-18 squadron that was, you know, you stand over by the jet blast and you wave your fingers like this so everybody knows that the engine is on. And it was the first time I walked right behind that aircraft, and he grabbed me and threw me on the ground and covered me and grabbed the you know, the pad eye is like a hook on the deck as the jet was, you know, the jet blast was blowing over, you know, both of us. And if he didn't do that, I would have went off the side of the ship.
I was going to say that'll send you into the Atlantic there,
which is about 90 feet. Yeah. And it's kind of crazy to think about that, and to think about all the different experiences with myself and, you know, my shipmates on how dangerous it is, because all that's happening at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
You know, so because I was on the night shift, which is one of the most dangerous jobs.
Yeah. I mean, being on sea at night, it's completely black.
Yeah. And you can't use high intensity lighting. So all of your flashlights are yellow, red, green. So it's very low visibility. Yeah. And it's exciting. It was a great experience, but knowing that you have other people on the ship that are looking out for you, because you all have to work together.
Absolutely.
Because somebody can make a mistake like I did, and they could get seriously injured or, you know, lose their life, and you're relying on your shipmates that are deployed with you to look out for you, and you have to look out for them.
Yeah, that is something else. And you're absolutely right. And again, it parallels to moving, because I've always said this to people, you know, moving and everything we do, not just moving, but like furniture installations, you know, IT work, whatever it may be, it's very human oriented. So you are dealing with, on a typical project, at least 10 people involved, probably more, probably 20 if you're talking about the coordinators and yourself and everybody involved, about 20 people. And you have to work. It's imperative that people are working together and communicating and looking out for each other and, you know, double checking things and all of those things. And again, there is that parallel. Obviously, the stakes are far lower, but it's that similar parallel there that makes so much sense. So that is crazy. See, I didn't know that, and that's why I enjoy these conversations, and this podcast is so great. As far as once you were done, I wanted to ask one quick thing. How long were you deployed for?
So general deployment is 6 months. I think we were out for about 7 months because we were, you know, deployed during COMET, so they can extend that. Our ship was out for 96 days without a port, which, if you live on a ship, that's a long time.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, 16-hour days for 96 days straight is what we worked, you know, during that conflict. You know, but there have been, you know, naval vessels that have been out for 10 months, you know, instead of 6 or 7 months. But the standard deployment is a 6-month deployment out to sea. Wow,
that is something else. So once you got back, you know, obviously you wound up at Walsh. Now, how did you wind up at Walsh? You know, remind me and tell our listeners.
Sure. So I got out of the Navy 2005. I was planning on getting into hydraulic mechanics because I did hydraulic mechanics for the aircraft, and I love doing it. It's exciting, you know, field. So I was going to get out and be a hydraulic mechanic. So went to the local union, Local 4 in Boston, for heavy equipment operators. And unfortunately, when I was in 2004, I had a shop accident and I lost partial vision in my right eye. Well, apparently you can't operate heavy machinery if you have impaired vision. So they said, hey, thanks for applying, but you can't be a mechanic on heavy machinery. So I then transitioned into director of logistics for a private airline, so I was still in aviation. I worked there from 2007 to 2013, but I was working as a project manager for Walsh Movers from 2005 to 2013, nights and weekends. My father has been in the office moving and furniture sales industry since 76. He had a small office furniture company called Foulsham's Office Furniture, and they refurbished, Steelcase M Wall and Herman Miller Ethos Space and all that stuff. So I grew up doing that. I joined the Navy, came back from the Navy, worked at the airline, assisted him when he needed another project manager. He was a subcontractor for Walsh Movers. So I was one of the subcontract project managers. And then a director of logistics spot opened up here at Walsh. And I thought moving from running a private airline with 8 private aircraft going into commercial relocation would be a step back in the stress level, So I said, hey, this is a great opportunity for me. I know the industry. I've been doing it since I was 13, building systems with my father. So I said, hey, this is great for me. I won't have to work nights and weekends and holidays and be on call 100% of the time.
Little did you know.
And you know what? The commercial relocation industry, I never knew that it was as big and as important as it is. Because when you talk to somebody and say, hey, I ran a private airline for 7 years and I coordinated customs and coordinated all the pilots, staffed all the pilots, made sure all the aircraft were up and running, coordinate with maintenance, and flew high-end executives all around the world, that sounds pretty intense. And to be completely honest with you, my role here at Walsh Movers as the general manager is more intense than doing that. And I never knew that would be like that. But this industry is much bigger than what people think it is. A lot of people think moving, okay, well, you just grab a bunch of stuff that people want that they tag and you move it from point A to point B. I've moved some pretty interesting machinery and we moved collectible automobiles. We moved, high-end, lab equipment, just these things that are, you look at them and you go, how are you going to move that?
Yep.
And it's really interesting that our industry provides a solution to all that stuff. And it's definitely more intense to me than aviation, which is kind of mind-blowing when you talk to somebody about it.
It is, if you talk to, just a civilian or a friend discussing it, they would probably have no idea. But it's, again, I mentioned the human orientation of it all, but the technical aspect of it too, and handling these high-value pieces, whether it's, you mentioned cars or laboratory equipment, it takes a lot of detail and work. And I've been very active in that field recently, like life science and lab work. And I have a meeting later today with a client to go over their move because it's just so technical and it takes so much attention to detail and communication and how are we doing this? We get a big piece, whatever that piece is, how are we going to move this? And it takes a meeting and strategy and a technical skill in order to do it. So I definitely understand it. How do you think your military background has helped you in this industry? You mentioned a couple of things as far as staying level-headed and, focusing on the task at hand. What else would you say has helped you? And beyond that question, why do you think veterans are good people to hire within the, moving industry as a whole?
Sure. So it's it comes down to a simple phrase that you hear in the military all the time: adapt and overcome. So there's all these challenges that you have, whether it's in the military or personal life or in commercial relocation. There's going to be a challenge. There is some people that encounter a challenge and don't know how to overcome that. If you have somebody that has been in the military and has been trained by the military, they know their limits. A lot of people think their limit is X, and it's actually 80% more than X.
Yep.
Like I was saying to you before, I was a very frail, weak, tall, skinny, goofy guy that got out of high school, didn't think I could do anything. I graduated, like I said, I was 127 pounds. I'm 240 pounds.
I got to see a picture of this.
I will send you so many pictures. Yeah. I have great pictures. I have flight deck pictures. I have when I first got into the Navy pictures. Yeah, I will send you a bunch of them. But you learn to adapt and overcome, and there's no I can't. You say I can't do something in boot camp, you're going to be running for like 5 days straight. There is no I can't. And like I was telling you before, it's not you personally that has to overcome it. You overcome a challenge with your group, with your team, with your squadron. And I think that when companies hire, veterans, they get a higher level of I can do something.
Right.
You're not going to have a group of employees that when you say, hey, we got to move this, this hot cell that's 80,000 pounds, it's all lead, let's get it done, guys. And you get a bunch of guys that say, hey, I don't know how to do this, I can't do it. You're going to get project coordinators that are going to adapt and overcome. You're going to get movers that are going to adapt and overcome. So I think that's the largest strength of hiring military is discipline and their ability to adapt to a situation and overcome a challenge.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And it is so important, regardless of role within this industry, being able to adapt and overcome, whether it's a mover or a coordinator, project manager, somebody like ourselves in sales, that is a key attribute to hold. So that makes a lot of sense. And then, beyond what you've done for the country and in the military and for Walsh, you did start a non-for-profit too called Second Salute. And that kind of correlates within it combines, what you've done in the military and what you do in the moving world. It's essentially, helping veterans out with different, furniture opportunities when you're moving and people are disposing of furniture. You're able to reuse that and donate it to veterans. You also assist with getting veterans necessary, equipment and machinery they might need for different disabilities. Can you tell us more about Second Salute and what you've done there?
Sure. So it was 2014 when I was working for Walsh. We had a customer in downtown Boston. They had 18 floors of furniture, and they had a need to donate it. There was a local donation company that would facilitate the donation. It was so jagged of a system from the move perspective and the donations perspective. They had to bring in all these different charities. They labeled it. It increased their move costs by $42,000 for the project because it was so inefficient to do it that way. So after that project, like all major projects that we have, we sat down, we talked about what we learned from the project. And one of the major things that Bill Walsh, the owner of Walsh Movers, and myself came up with is that this project, even though it's a success, it failed in a lot of logistic ways because getting the furniture to a donation was so cumbersome. So we said, hey, we can provide a better service to our customer. And I'm in the disabled veteran community. And I said, hey, this is a great opportunity. I'll start a nonprofit that supports disabled American veterans. We'll do it as a furniture, donation company, and it's going to help our commercial customers find an alternate to landfill for their products. So what we do is we'll go in, we'll talk to the customer on a standard relocation. They'll have some unwanted furniture. Walsh Movers will remove it. It'll come back to the warehouse, and then Second Salute starts on placement. We have a wish list. So we have a whole network here in Massachusetts where people can reach out to us and say, we're looking for a TV or a desk chair or cubicles. And we support the end user for us, which is the veteran. Right. We support them if they need something for their home or for their business. We support organizations who support veterans, like Veterans Inc. in Worcester. We had a major clean out of Suffolk University. They had 500 dorm room setups.
Wow.
That were at the end of their life, which is only like 5 years, right? Because they get totally abused, So we pull out 500 setups, which would normally get smashed up and thrown in a landfill.
Yep.
We were able to take those 500 setups. We delivered them to Worcester, Mass, which is west of Boston, and we got them to Veterans Inc. And they supply, veterans with housing. So they have all these different halfway houses and rehab facilities that they provide to veterans with substance abuse problems, and we outfitted all of their homes with this dorm furniture, which was perfect for them.
Wow.
So that was great, and that was, I think it was about 12 trailer loads. So
wow.
12 trailer loads of furniture that would normally get into a landfill.
Right.
We were able to help the environment. We were able to help the customers because now they don't have to pay for disposal. And we were able to help the veterans because now they have a nice dorm room set up, to use while they're through recovery. And I had another instance in Taunton, Mass, which is south of Boston, where there was a local church there, and the rectory of the church, they were changing into a halfway house to support veterans with substance abuse. And a lot of times when you think of disabled veterans, you think of somebody losing a limb or losing an eye or something like that. But the majority of people that I come across in my community that has a disability is usually mental, post-traumatic stress. Right. That leads to self-medication, alcohol abuse, substance abuse. Right. So there's a lot of that that we deal with and we try to support. So I had a customer, we cleared out over 200 workstations, conference rooms, other type of office product. And this halfway house reached out to me. They said, hey, we're going to launch this in 2 months and we need your help. We got to furnish the whole place. So what we did was the workstations, they were old Herman Miller workstations. We recycled those. We got the scrap value for that. We bought all the beds for the halfway house. There was 8 flat screen TVs that we brought there. We put them up in the rooms. The nightstands were mobile 2-drawer pedestals that we used. The TV stands were credenzas. Their bureaus was a 3-drawer file cabinet. So we repurposed office furniture for a residential setting where this halfway house, the church that was supporting it, didn't have to buy any of that stuff. So they could take their resources and focus it into the property itself or into getting mentors in there, right. And helping these veterans. So that's where it's really helped us. And it's a win-win-win. So the customer wins because they reduce their costs for unwanted right. furniture. The environment wins because we're not filling up landfills with old office product. And the veteran wins, and the moving right. company wins too, because we're able to bridge the move and the donation. We're able to be that bridge for our customers.
Absolutely. Do you guys put a like a dollar amount value to it as far as, I guess it would look into like depreciated value of the furniture, but like, are you able to say, yeah, we donated this much furniture that was able to save this organization, so much money and stuff like that?
Yeah. So what we do is at the end of the project, we'll provide the end user, whoever donated the furniture, we'll provide them with a donation report. So it lets them know the quantity of stuff that was donated, what was diverted from landfills. There's always a couple things that it's usually less than 2% that we have to dispose of. Normally it's work surfaces because the glue content in the work surface, right, you really can't do much with it. But it's less than 2% that goes into a landfill. We give them a whole report of where their product went to. Second Salute contracts a third-party independent appraiser, which is suggested by the federal government. So we take a whole list. We do a site survey. We get the whole inventory list. We provide that to a third-party independent appraiser. She researches common items that are being sold. So say if it's a workstation, she'll research the market and say, this workstation that's this old, this manufacturer in this condition is going for X amount of dollars. So that is now the fair market value of that product. She provides us with an appraisal that the charity pays for. And then we provide that to the customer. And we take that dollar amount and we put it into the receipt. So it's not just a paper receipt.
Right.
You fill in the amount of what you think it's worth. This is all vetted through a third-party independent appraiser, so that us as a charity, we can make sure that we're doing the right thing and following the guidance of the IRS and the federal government. And we provide another level of accountability and credibility to our customer, saying, this is the value of your product, and a professional has assessed that. It's not us assessing it or you assessing it.
Third-party professional, yeah.
A third-party, independent appraiser assess the value of it. So it works out great. And our customers are extremely happy of the service that we provide them. And on top of that, we can provide a great service to our veterans. So for example, we had a bunch of furniture, a lot of metal furniture, but it was just not marketable. So it had no value left. They were 6-high file cabinets with the flipper doors. Nobody wants those anymore, So there was zero value for that. But what we did was we took those, we trucked them to the scrapyard. They recycled the metal. We took the cash value, and we were able to purchase a scooter for a veteran in the Raynham area. It was a $2,500 scooter. Yeah, and she has emphysema and a bunch of respiratory issues because the base that she was a drill sergeant on was contaminated, and they didn't know it until years and years later. So she has some respiratory stuff. She can't walk, 15 feet without getting winded. She's on her own. She's independent. So she couldn't really transport a scooter and assemble it. Some of them you have to assemble if you're going to transport them in your, SUV or something like that. So we found a company in Florida that makes a great product. You hit a button on it and it folds out automatically, and she can hop right on it and then go into the grocery store or wherever she needs to go. So she still feels independent,
right?
So we take an unwanted 6-drawer level file cabinet and we convert that into a medical device that's going to help a veteran who served her country that now has some medical issues because of that. It helps her to still feel independent and have a good quality of life.
So let me ask you this. Let's say I'm doing a disposal and I have those type of, metal file cabinets or other items. I could say to a client like, hey, listen, there's really no value for these. No one's going to use them, but I can take these to a dump and, recycle them, strip them, and then, scrap the metal. And the, amount of money I get for that can be donated to Second Salute, where we're going to find a way to donate it to a veteran in need, for different machinery or equipment or assistance they might need.
Yeah, definitely. And we've done that with several of our clients, and some of them want to be anonymous, and some of them would like the recognition of it. So we do both things. If there's end user that would like us to share their name with the veteran, we donate it on behalf of them on their company, so they know where it's coming from. If they don't, we just say it's an anonymous donor, and we donate it to the veteran on their behalf. But we do that a lot. And as you know, Jack, there's a lot of furniture that gets decommissioned that's at its end of its life.
Oh yeah, of course.
And there's a lot of stuff that just really is not marketable, but it still has value. It has scrap value. So we take that and we convert that into a cash donation. In my hometown of Bridgewater, we had a veteran that just got out of the military. He was working for FedEx, couldn't make ends meet. They reached out to the local VA. They contacted me. So he had 3 kids. We took the cash value of the donation. We had a bunch of cubicles, recycle them, take that cash value, and we bought all their kids Christmas presents. So small things like that, when you look at something that is unwanted, just because it's 30 years old, and it's an unwanted piece of furniture, there may be value in it.
Right. Right.
So
yeah, that's really great.
Yeah, we're able to help them out.
And one last thing I wanted to ask about Second Salute. You're able to do this in other markets too, right? So do you have connections in New York or elsewhere? Let's say I had a bunch of furniture, from a hotel or a college or something that, like you mentioned, and, we wanted to look for a partner on that. Would you be able to help with that?
We are, yeah, we're able to help on that. It works a little bit differently outside of our market, because inside our market, we can take
You have the
control of
connections
everything
already, right?
Yeah, of course,
Right.
and we can manage everything. Outside of our market, like the Advanced Group, I did a donation job with them with Jeff Silverstein years ago. And basically what the local mover does, our OMA partner does, is they do what they normally would do. You find a liquidator, you sell the stuff.
Right.
You scrap it, you recycle it. There's going to be some waste. You handle everything locally, and then we provide you with the means to donate it. So it's a good system. And the most important thing that we focus on is we make sure that the veterans benefit from it, obviously, and we make sure that it's as seamless as it is in the Boston market as it would be in New York. Because one of our major focuses is we don't want it to be difficult for the end user. We don't want to be difficult for them to donate it.
Right.
So if you go down other avenues, a lot of the other donation companies that are out there, and people do it for profit too, and it's much more cumbersome because now they need to find somebody to donate it to. They need to get pictures, description. They need to come back in and make 3 or 4 more appointments with the office manager. And it just becomes more of a challenge for the end user. With this, if you had a project in New York, you would do what you normally do. You're already there on site. You already did a walkthrough. You already have liquidators in your market. You're going to use your connections in your market to convert that unwanted furniture into a cash donation for the veteran. That's the easiest way to do it outside the Boston market.
Right. That makes sense. Good to know, man. Well, listen, man, this is great. And like I said, I appreciate you so much. You really are just such a genuine and impressive and, good guy. And I'm happy to call you a friend and a, coworker. And, obviously thank you for everything you've done for not only myself, but, for the country as a whole. It's all very well appreciated, man. You're a good dude.
Thanks so much, Jack. Thanks for having me on the podcast. Appreciate you as well. And we're not friends. We're not friends, Jack. We're family, buddy.
That's right. That's right. My brother Andrew. I appreciate it, man. Looking forward to the next time I get to see you and spend time. And thanks again for coming on.
All right. Thanks so much, Jack.
All right. Thanks everybody for listening. Looking forward to next time.